There are moments in life when you meet someone who captures your soul, but somewhere along the way they pull back, they stop texting, they stop showing up, they start building walls so high you feel like you're on the outside of your own story. And in that moment you have two choices: let the distance kill the connection, or step into your power and become the person they cannot ignore. I'm here to tell you something that may shock you. Avoidants are not cold-hearted. They are not emotionless. They are overwhelmed by feelings they don't yet know how to process. And if you know the 7 words, the 7 moves, and you use them in the next 7 days, you can flip the emotional switch inside them that's been stuck on off for far too long. This isn't about manipulation. It's about influence. It's about speaking the language their heart understands when their mind is trying to shut you out. Because connection isn't about chasing harder, it's about moving smarter. And today, I'm handing you the blueprint. When it comes to unlocking the heart of an avoidant, the very first and most important step is creating a deep sense of emotional safety. You have to understand that an avoidant isn't running away from you. They're running away from the feelings you trigger inside them. Their distance isn't always rejection, often it's self-protection. They've learned somewhere in their past that closeness can lead to pain, betrayal, or loss. So the moment they sense emotional intensity, they instinctively build a wall, not because they don't care, but because caring too much feels dangerous to them. If you want to reach them, you cannot charge at that wall. You cannot hammer at it with accusations, demands, or emotional ultimatums. That will only reinforce the very fears that keep them guarded. Instead, you must become the opposite of what they expect. They expect drama. Give them calm. They expect judgment. Give them understanding. They expect you to push. Choose instead to invite. This is where your presence becomes your most powerful tool. Every word you say, every tone in your voice, every micro expression on your face should signal you are safe here. I'm not here to control you. I'm not here to corner you. I'm here to understand you. Because here's the truth: emotional safety isn't just spoken, it's felt. It's in the way you listen without interrupting, in the way you acknowledge their feelings without instantly trying to fix them, in the way you respect their pauses without rushing to fill the silence. You create safety by allowing them to show up as they are without fearing you'll punish them for it. That means you don't punish distance with coldness of your own. You don't punish hesitation with guilt tripping. Instead, you model the steadiness they've never been able to trust before. This doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior. It means setting boundaries without hostility, without threats, and without emotional volatility. When an avoidant begins to feel emotionally safe with you, their nervous system relaxes. The walls they've held up so tightly begin to crack, not because you've forced them open, but because they've decided it's safe to let you in. That's the magic of safety. It's not about convincing them with logic. It's about influencing them with an energy that tells their subconscious, here, you can breathe. Here, you can be real. If you give them this feeling consistently, they'll start to lean toward you, not because they have to, but because they want to. And once that happens, you're no longer chasing an avoidant, you're building a connection they'll fight to keep. The 7 words trigger is not about some magic sentence that hypnotizes an avoidant into loving you. It's about understanding how the human brain, especially the avoidant brain, processes emotional language. Avoidants are highly sensitive to anything that feels like pressure, criticism, or emotional overwhelm. Long speeches, heavy conversations, and emotional monologues can actually make them retreat even faster. But short, emotionally charged phrases, just a few words, can bypass their mental defenses and go straight to their emotional core. Why? Because the subconscious mind reacts instantly to concise, impactful language. 7 words or fewer can slip under the radar of their defense system before it has time to analyze and reject what you're saying. Think of it like handing a note through a small opening in the wall instead of trying to break down the entire wall at once. The shorter and sharper your words, the harder they hit emotionally because they feel organic rather than calculated. These triggers work best when they are rooted in authenticity, not manipulation. You can't fake the emotion behind them. Your tone, your timing, and your delivery must match the weight of the words. For example, instead of saying, "You never make me feel important," which will likely cause them to withdraw, you might say, I love feeling close to you. That short sentence carries warmth instead of accusation, and it plants the seed of connection rather than defensiveness. Another example, instead of, "Why don't you care about me?" you might say, "You matter so much to me." Notice the shift. It's no longer about blame, it's about affirmation. Avoidants are often starved of safe, pressure-free affirmation. Your words can become the oxygen that keeps the connection alive, but only if they are chosen with precision and delivered without emotional aggression. The key is to make each phrase a gentle touch, not a shove. 7 words can be enough to open a crack in their armor if those words carry a mix of sincerity, vulnerability, and respect for their space. And you don't use them constantly. You drop them in sparingly at moments when they least expect it, so they land with maximum impact. When done right, these short triggers bypass overthinking and spark a feeling they can't easily shut down. It's not about tricking them. It's about giving their heart just enough of a safe opening to remember what connection feels like without their fear taking over. And once they feel it, they'll start seeking more of it on their own. The first move is yours because waiting for an avoidant to close the gap on their own can mean waiting forever. Not because they don't care, but because making the first move feels like vulnerability to them, and vulnerability feels like danger. If you want to create momentum, you have to be the one who takes that first intentional step forward. But here's the truth, making the first move is not the same as chasing. Chasing is frantic, needy energy that pushes them further away. Making the first move is calm, deliberate, and confident. It signals that you're grounded in your own worth and not afraid to lead the connection forward. When you take the first move, you're not trying to force an outcome, you're setting the tone. This could be as simple as reaching out with a light pressure, free message, showing up with a thoughtful gesture, or breaking the ice after a period of distance without making them feel cornered. It's the difference between, "We need to talk," and, "Hey, I saw something today that made me think of you." One creates pressure, the other creates curiosity. Your first move should carry the energy of someone who is choosing, not pleading. Avoidants respond far better to strength wrapped in warmth than to desperation disguised as love. When they sense you are self-assured, you disrupt their expectation that intimacy will lead to loss of control. You show them a form of closeness that feels safe rather than consuming. Timing is equally important. The first move should not be made in the heat of emotional frustration. It should be made when you are centered, calm, and able to speak or act without hidden tension in your tone or body language. That way, your approach doesn't trigger their fight or flight response. It invites them to lower their guard naturally. Making the first move also signals that you are willing to lead in moments where they freeze. Avoidants often stall emotionally, not knowing how to re-engage without risking discomfort. By taking the initiative, you remove the burden from them while showing that connection doesn't have to be a minefield. Over time, if you consistently make the first moves with confidence and emotional balance, they will begin to mirror your actions, meeting you halfway instead of leaving all the effort on your shoulders. This is how leadership in a relationship creates trust, by showing them through action that forward movement can feel safe, even for someone who's spent their whole life stepping back. Respecting their space is one of the most counterintuitive yet powerful things you can do when dealing with an avoidant. When you care deeply about someone, your natural instinct is to move closer, to close the gap, to try to bridge the silence with more connection. But for an avoidant, too much closeness too quickly feels like emotional suffocation. It's not that they don't value intimacy. It's that intimacy stirs up unresolved fears they've learned to avoid. So when they start pulling away, the worst thing you can do is chase harder. The more you push, the more they retreat. Respecting their space means you allow them the breathing room their nervous system craves. This is not about playing hard to get or withholding affection to manipulate them. It's about understanding their psychological wiring and choosing an approach that doesn't trigger their defenses. By giving them room, you communicate something vital. I trust you enough to give you space without fearing I'll lose you. That trust is magnetic because avoidants are used to feeling trapped, not trusted. In practice, this can mean resisting the urge to double text, not showing up unannounced, or letting them initiate when they're ready after a period of quiet. It also means using the time apart wisely, focusing on your own life, growth, and fulfillment rather than sitting in anxiety, waiting for their return. They need to feel that you're not dependent on their constant presence to be whole, that you are choosing them, not clinging to them. When you respect their space, something powerful happens on their end. Their fear of losing independence begins to relax. Instead of associating closeness with being smothered, they start to see it as something that can coexist with freedom. This shift changes the entire dynamic. Over time, they may even begin to seek you out more often, because they know you won't punish them for needing distance. It's important to note that space doesn't mean disconnection. You can still maintain subtle points of contact, like check-ins, small reminders of your presence without intruding. The key is to keep the tone easy, non-demanding, and pressure-free. This balance between availability and detachment is what allows trust to grow. For an avoidant, trust is the foundation on which intimacy is built, and without respecting their space, that foundation never gets laid. By showing you can honor both closeness and freedom, you become someone they feel safe coming toward, rather than someone they need to escape from. Micro moments of vulnerability are like small keys that slowly unlock the door to an avoidant's guarded heart. With avoidance, grand emotional gestures often backfire because they can feel overwhelming or manipulative. But tiny, intentional moments of openness can bypass their defenses and slip directly into their emotional awareness without setting off alarms. Vulnerability, when delivered in small, digestible doses, creates safety instead of fear. These moments are not about spilling your deepest wounds all at once or demanding they match your level of openness immediately. Instead, they're about sharing brief, genuine truths in a way that invites, not forces them to meet you in the middle. It might be as simple as saying, "I really enjoyed that time with you," or "I missed hearing your voice today." Short statements like these carry emotional weight but don't pressure them for a reaction. The beauty of micro-vulnerability is that it models the very behavior you hope to inspire in them. When you share something small and authentic, you show that openness doesn't have to be dangerous or dramatic. You teach them, through your example, that emotions can be expressed without chaos or control. Over time, these little moments create a pattern in their mind. Being open with you feels safe. You also have to remember that avoidants are hyper-attuned to the emotional atmosphere. They're quick to notice changes in tone, energy, and intention. If your vulnerability feels like a test, a guilt trip, or a way to force closeness, they'll withdraw. But if it comes from a calm, grounded place, it feels real, and real is magnetic. Micro moments can also happen non-verbally. A gentle smile after they say something personal, a soft touch on the hand in a quiet moment, holding their gaze for just a second longer than usual. These are subtle but powerful ways to communicate. I'm here with you. I'm safe. These gestures register emotionally without feeling invasive. Consistency matters. One vulnerable moment won't change their wiring, but a steady pattern of small, safe disclosures will. Over time, these micro moments can lead to deeper conversations, longer eye contact, and a willingness from them to share more than they ever have before. You're not trying to tear down their walls in one strike. You're planting seeds of trust that grow naturally. And when they finally open up more fully, it will be because you made vulnerability feel like something they chose, never something they were forced into. Nonverbal magnetism is one of the most underestimated yet powerful tools in creating connection with an avoidant. People often focus entirely on the words they say, forgetting that over half of communication is nonverbal. Tone, posture, eye contact, facial expressions, and even the energy you project without speaking. For an avoidant who may be hyper alert to subtle cues of danger or judgment, what you convey without words often matters more than what you say. Avoidants are constantly scanning for signs that closeness will cost them their freedom or emotional safety. If your body language feels tense, your eyes dart around nervously, or your tone carries hidden urgency, they'll pick up on it instantly, even if your actual words are calm. That's why mastering non-verbal magnetism isn't about acting. It's about embodying genuine ease, confidence, and openness so that your physical presence feels like a safe place to be. Start with your posture. When you're with them, keep your body relaxed but attentive. Lean in slightly when they speak, showing interest, but also give them enough space physically so they never feel crowded. Keep your shoulders open instead of hunched and avoid crossing your arms, which can subconsciously signal defensiveness or impatience. Your body should say, I'm here, I'm grounded, and I'm not here to trap you. Eye contact is equally important. With an avoidant, you don't want to lock eyes with an intense stare that feels intrusive, but you also don't want to avoid eye contact altogether. Instead, find a natural rhythm. Look into their eyes when making a warm point, then glance away briefly before coming back. This ebb and flow mirrors the push-pull dynamic they're comfortable with and helps them relax. Tone of voice is another subtle but powerful lever. Keep your tone steady, calm, and warm. Avoid sharp or rushed speech which can signal frustration or anxiety. A slower, intentional pace communicates presence and control, while a gentle inflection signals kindness. Even something as simple as a softly spoken, I hear you, can carry more impact than a long explanation. Nonverbal magnetism also comes from micro-expressions, the fleeting facial cues you give without thinking. A genuine smile at the right moment, a look of understanding when they share something, or a calm nod while they speak tells them more than words could. Over time, these consistent signals train their subconscious to feel safe and drawn toward you. It's about creating an atmosphere where they feel understood without being pressured, and where connection happens naturally without them having to force it. The 7-day rhythm is about creating a consistent and predictable flow of interaction that builds subconscious trust in an avoidant's mind. Avoidants are often wary of inconsistency because it reminds them of unstable or overwhelming relationships from their past. They're used to people either coming on too strong, then disappearing, or withdrawing completely when faced with resistance. What they rarely experience is someone who shows up with steady, balanced energy over time. That's where the 7-day rhythm becomes powerful. It offers just enough contact to maintain connection without overwhelming them, and it does so in a way that feels reliable. This rhythm works because it bypasses their fear of engulfment while also preventing the connection from going completely cold. Think of it as a steady heartbeat, present, dependable, but never pounding too hard. You're not bombarding them with constant calls and messages, nor are you vanishing until they forget about you. Instead, you're showing up with intentional touch points spread across the week so they begin to associate you with stability. These touch points can be small, a brief, warm message one day, a light-hearted meme the next, a short call midweek, and maybe a casual in-person meet-up before the week ends. The goal isn't to fill every day with interaction, it's to maintain a flow they can come to expect. Over time, this regular pattern softens their resistance because their nervous system starts to relax in your presence. You're not an unpredictable storm, you're a steady, calming current. The rhythm also works because it gives them space in between interactions to process and miss you. Avoidants often need time alone to sort through their emotions. By allowing those natural pauses while still reappearing with warmth and consistency, you give them the breathing room they crave without losing the connection. This combination of space and reliability is rare for them and deeply attractive. What's crucial is that your rhythm is sustainable. If you start strong and then fade away, it sends the same unpredictable signal they've learned to distrust. But if you maintain it, 7 days after 7 days, something shifts. They begin to lean into the connection, anticipating the next moment you'll show up. Because now it's not a question of if you will, it's simply when. And for someone who has spent their life preparing for people to let them down, that kind of predictability is not just comforting, it's magnetic. Owning your energy means becoming the emotional anchor in the connection rather than being tossed around by the other person's moods or reactions. With an avoidant, this is especially critical because they are sensitive to shifts in emotional climate. If you mirror their withdrawal with frustration, anxiety, or neediness, it confirms their fear that closeness leads to instability. But when you maintain steady, grounded energy, you communicate without saying a word that you can be trusted to handle both connection and distance without falling apart. This begins with self-awareness. You have to know when your own emotional triggers are firing so you can pause before reacting. If an avoidant pulls away, the instinct might be to push for answers, express hurt, or close off in retaliation. Owning your energy means resisting those impulses and choosing a response that reflects stability rather than reactivity. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings, it means you process them without letting them control your behavior. Your emotional state sets the tone for the interaction. When you're calm, collected, and confident, you create an atmosphere where they can relax. Avoidants often fear that emotional intensity will spiral out of control. But if you're consistently demonstrating composure, even when they are distant, they begin to reassess their belief that closeness equals chaos. You become a living example of safe intimacy, where emotions are present but never volatile. Owning your energy also means being intentional about the emotional signals you send. Your tone of voice, body language, and pacing in conversations should all reflect a quiet confidence. You don't rush to fill silences, you allow pauses without panicking. You don't overcompensate to get a reaction, you trust that your presence is enough. This balanced energy is attractive because it's rare. Most people either lean too far into pursuit or too far into avoidance themselves. Another part of owning your energy is staying rooted in your own life. When your sense of fulfillment doesn't depend entirely on their attention, you naturally give off an energy of abundance rather than lack. That energy tells them, I want you here, but I don't need you to complete me. This removes pressure and makes them more likely to lean toward you willingly. When you hold this kind of presence consistently, you stop being a variable in their life and become a constant. That constancy shifts the dynamic entirely. Instead of managing your reactions, they start to feel drawn toward your steadiness. They realize that with you, they can experience connection without losing themselves. And for an avoidant, that's the rarest gift of all. When it comes to unlocking the heart of an avoidant, the truth is this: it's not about breaking down their walls in one dramatic moment. It's about consistently showing up in ways that feel safe, inviting, and genuine. The old 7 words, 7 moves. 7 days framework works because it's built on patience, psychology, and emotional intelligence. Each key point is a strategic step designed to shift the emotional dynamic without triggering their deepest fears. You're not fighting against their avoidance. You're working with it, creating an environment where they willingly begin to meet you halfway. This process begins with emotional safety because without it, no other tactic will matter. The way you speak, the way you act, and the way you hold space for them communicates whether or not you can be trusted with their vulnerability. Once that safety is in place, your carefully chosen words and measured actions become powerful tools. The 7 words trigger teaches you how to speak directly to their emotional core without overwhelming them, while making the first move allows you to set the tone for the connection instead of waiting for them to take the lead. These aren't random gestures. They're calculated acts of influence grounded in self-assurance rather than desperation. Respecting their space is another pillar of this approach. It may feel counterintuitive, especially when you want more closeness, but space is often the very thing that allows an avoidant to feel safe enough to move toward you. This space, paired with micro moments of vulnerability, creates a rhythm of connection that feels organic rather than forced. Instead of flooding them with intensity, you're sprinkling in small, consistent signals that closeness can be safe and enjoyable. Over time, these moments plant seeds of trust that grow naturally. Non-verbal magnetism and the 7-day rhythm are where your consistency begins to take form. Your body language, tone, and emotional steadiness speak volumes without you having to say much at all. Pair that with a predictable pattern of interaction, and you become a stable, calming presence in their life. For someone used to instability or pressure, this predictability is a game changer. It dismantles the association between intimacy and overwhelm. You're building a connection where they feel both safe and free, and that combination is rare enough to make them rethink their instinct to pull away. Owning your energy is the thread that ties the entire process together. When you stay emotionally grounded, no matter what phase they're in, whether they're leaning in or pulling back, you become the emotional anchor in the relationship. They start to see you not as another person they have to protect themselves from, but as someone who can handle both closeness and distance without losing balance. And in that realization lies the shift. The avoidant stops running from connection and starts choosing it. Because for the first time, it feels like a place where they can be fully themselves without fear. That's when the heart unlocks, not because you forced it open, but because you created a space where it wanted to open on its own. Sir, thank you for watching and being part of this journey. If this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your support helps us reach more hearts, break more walls, and inspire deeper connections. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join our growing community where we learn, grow, and transform together. Until next time, stay strong, stay centered, and remember the heart you're trying to reach might just be waiting for the safe space only you can create. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.